Hey, legal eagles and fans of murder. You are watching the Rap Report, How to Get Away with Murder, Episode 7, He Deserved to Die. I am your host, Sophia Stanley, joined by...
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Cornelia.
And I'm Bam Erickson.
And again, we are going to get right into this episode called He Deserved to Die. And the scene opens with Wes and Rebecca, and they're kind of having a bit of an intimate moment, and it is the first time we see them kiss. How did that resonate with you guys? Were you guys kind of expecting that, or it was still a bit of a surprise that they finally acknowledged that they had feelings for each other?
I can't say that I was expecting it. I was more relieved because he's doing all this stuff for her. He's going out of his way for her as if they are in a relationship. So when I saw them kissed, I was like, okay, good, finally. Because I was hoping that he wasn't just doing this because he, had this crush on her or he was obsessed with her in some way. I was like, oh, okay, good. They finally kissed. They're finally intimate. That way I won't feel like he's just super gullible or just, that just helpful, trustworthy guy. So, I was like, oh, finally.
I'm unsure if he likes her or if he is just a genuinely nice person who doesn't recognize when he's being played.
I'm going to piggyback off of that because for me, after they kissed, the look on her face, it was this weird smug smile that was a little bit eerie. In the standpoint that I was like, wait a minute, is she manipulating him for her own ends? Or does she genuinely like him? And so again, I'm still 50-50 at the beginning. My opinion slightly changes towards the end of the episode, but it was a little bit weird for me. Especially kind of just, the scene then goes immediately to Annalise's office where Rebecca is recounting what happened the night of the murder, and she basically, for a moment, confesses to the murder, and everyone kind of was stunned, and then she was like, joking. Did you guys think that was beyond out of line, or do you think it was kind of like she was just trying to lighten up the moment?
I think it was out of line, but it seemed like she's just not a good person. Like you said, it's like she had that smug look. This whole time we've seen her, she's had this permanent side eye. Like she walks around like, like she's in on an inside joke that nobody's a part of. I just don't see her knowing how or wanting to be nice. Because you remember a few episodes back, she said she likes making people feel uncomfortable. At a certain point, you're like, why? What's the point? So, I'm just not team her. When she said that, when she was telling them, her recounting her side of the story, I was like, just talk to them. Like, why are you even doing this? This is unnecessary and it was a waste of time.
And do you think it was a waste of time also given the seriousness of the charge? Like, it's not like she's being, brought before the disciplinary committee at her school for plagiarism. She's literally about to go to trial for murder. And arguably, as we found out last episode, Philadelphia, or let me restate, Pennsylvania has, they can execute people. So she literally could lose her life if she lost this case.
My problem with this girl is she comes off as this girl who's had a rough childhood, so therefore I'm a rebellious girl, and so what, who cares, basically. So she cares about nothing. She barely cares about herself. And the fact that she is being helped, she has probably the best lawyer in Pennsylvania that's trying to help her, and she's not taking it serious, even after she knows that she could potentially go to jail, and she doesn't care. I would have simply, me, I would have simply left her ass on the curb because I don't understand how you cannot take this as serious. And then what was also annoying about this situation is this is where Wes has the upper hand on Annalise, and the students doesn't like it because when she called her the whole white whore, I have another problem.
I'm going to do it. Okay. White trash, piece of trash, murderer.
Okay, now I believe Annalise was saying that because that's something that she will be depicted while on trial. But I also felt she was saying it because that's how she truly feels, and so she was kind of sliding it in. But then Wes says, "Okay, let's take a 5-minute break." Wes, brother, when did you start? When did you? When
Being
did you
on par
start
with
thinking?
Annalise and dictating how we're going to run this case, right?
Right.
You're
But
thinking,
but Annalise then said, "Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break," which is like, wait a minute. He's got something on her because he knows when and when not to use his power, and that was totally a power move that he threw in front of the his classmates.
I completely agree with you, man. I completely
Yeah. It was a power move, but it was also at some point though, Wes is going to have to back down from this. Like he's like this little guard dog. Even when anything happened, remember, and I'm skipping ahead, and we'll talk about it later, I'm sure. But when she went along with the whole leaking the information to the paper, and how he got mad and was throwing a hissy fit because she did, like, what? I feel like he thinks he's like her work dad, where you have like a work boyfriend, and you're cool and you do things together, like eat lunch and you bond at work, but then your work dad is like that person who feels like he has to be your like mentor and guide and protect you in a business setting, and without you even knowing, without you even being like, can you be my work dad? He's like this dad figure that he volunteered for on his own. I just want him to stand down. It's just weird. His relationship with her is weird.
I completely agree with you, especially given the fact that simply because she said she didn't do it, she didn't do it. Like, she is viably a plausible murderer. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just think about what we know of her, right? She seems extremely detached and devoid of emotion because here on one standpoint, she literally was in a position where she had a motive, right? Because whether or not she had a relationship with Griffin, a long-going relationship, or that night when Lila was murdered, that was the first time they kissed. That in of itself is a motive, right? Let alone, let's kind of paint her character. She is a drug dealer. She kind of is a loner. She was sleeping with someone else's boyfriend who supposedly is this virginal quarterback. And she has no alibi, and she had the dead girl's phone. So why could she not be the murderer? And the fact that Wes, simply because he is all of those things, and simply because she is a quote-unquote townie, and she says, I didn't kill him, I didn't kill her, that's enough. It doesn't seem right to me. Like, I still haven't seen yet why he's willing not only to side with her, but why he's willing to risk everything, not just his career, but potentially his freedom for a girl he doesn't even know, and a girl who seems not to care that much whether or not she goes to prison.
What's confusing to me is when they went back to the flashback when they were in the hotel, and he says, you stay here while I'll go take care of some other stuff. She confessed to the murder and why she killed him, and the reason that she saw the idol trophy. That was the first thing that she saw. She hit him with it, and then the scene opens up where they're all downstairs wiping up the evidence in the blood while he's upstairs wiping her off. So did she really kill Sam, and Wes and the gang are covering up? I'm a little confused, I have to admit.
Well, I definitely think, and it's funny, we had talked about this before, but I definitely think she killed Sam. So that I don't think is of issue. I think the issue is whether or not she killed Lila.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
So, and because I think that confession felt real, and not only did it feel real, again, why is it that Wes doesn't want to hear the truth? The fact that she said, he deserved to die. I killed him. He wanted to kill me, so I literally in pure self-defense, saw a plausible weapon and arguably hit him over the head and killed him. The fact that Wes doesn't want to hear that seems a bit naive, as if he's trying to make Rebecca into this girl that needs to be saved, versus arguably on some levels she doesn't, because she clearly handled herself and was able to defend herself against a grown man who arguably physically could dominate her.
I think going along with that Sophia, I think it has to do with his mom. Because you remember when he was laying in the bed with her and he said he tried to slip in that his mom tried to commit suicide when he was like 12 or something.
Yeah.
It seems like he's trying to save her because he could not save his mom. One of those things. Like, I feel like I need to protect you and do what I can so you'll, have a chance because I was too little to do that for my mom. So I think he doesn't want to hear her. I don't know. I think he's weird, man. Like, every time I see him, I'm like, he's just weird.
No, and I think that's a good example of it, because even in that moment, even though I could understand it, the way that he slipped in the fact that his mom committed suicide into random details about who he was, and then immediately goes on to, and I like, mint chip ice cream, I think it shows that even though he's functioning within society, there's something there that's a little bit off, and therefore that's possibly why he connects with Rebecca, because there's something about Rebecca that either reminds him, just like you said, Cornelia, either of his mom or of himself. The fact that they're both kind of detached from reality, even though they seem to be going about life like everybody else. So what did you think about the revelation that Annalise had not a miscarriage, but several miscarriages, when she basically referred to Rebecca as a terrorist and said, thank God for all the miscarriages we had, because, what if we had a child like her? How did that resonate with you guys?
For me, it was, what's interesting in this episode is general conversation is what is now telling the background characters for pretty much this cast. And so Annalise, she reveals that, she's had these miscarriages. But for me, what was really interesting about that comment is, so she's had miscarriages, she doesn't want kids, and then there was a time when Sam was trying to caress her shoulders, and she was like, no. So if you don't want kids, you don't like to be touched by Sam, you don't want to be bothered, then why do you need him, as you so much confessed last week? I need you. What do you need him for? You don't want kids. You don't like being touched by the man. What do you need him? I don't get it.
Well, I felt bad for her when she brought up the miscarriages, because now we know that she met him when she was broken. She was his first mistress, or, whatever you want to call it, side chick, whatever. She was that person. He cheated on her before. She had these miscarriages. Now she's dealing with this again. He potentially murdered Lila. I don't necessarily think she said about the miscarriages and what if we had a daughter like her, like she didn't want children. I think it's just it seems like a defense mechanism, or just was something you say in the spur of the moment, like, this girl is so annoying, thank God we didn't have a kid like her. But I think that's really sad. Like, it's really sad to, especially as a woman, and I've never had a miscarriage. I'm just speaking from people I've known who have fertility issues. That's a hard thing to carry, and it's a very heavy weight to have on your shoulders if you keep having miscarriages to the point where you don't have kids at all. So I was really sad for her.
I agree, Cornelia. I took it the same way. I took it the fact that she had multiple miscarriages, to me, means that they were in fact trying to have a child. They were unable to, and it's her defense mechanism, because I think she's very pragmatic. So she has to convince herself that there was a reason that they didn't have a child, and the reason is that the child could have been like Rebecca. So I actually felt sad for her, and the fact that she had to somehow twist her logic to basically say something so cold and so callous in reference to something that there's almost no way that someone could be so devoid of emotion to basically be so cold to talk about a miscarriage in that way, particularly their miscarriage. And I think that when Sam was trying to rub her shoulders, I think it's because no matter what we think of them, they're still husband and wife. And so I think he was trying to not only comfort her, he's trying to get back into her good graces. And the reason she stopped him and said, I'm not ready yet, is because it was just revealed that he just cheated. So I think that as a wife, even if you're not necessarily ready or willing or divorce is an option, you still need a moment to kind of heal because he was with someone else. So to a certain extent, him touching you is going to make you think of the fact that he was with someone else and violated the sanctity of your marriage, but it doesn't mean that we can't get past that, as we then see further in the scene when it gets interrupted, that they are getting to a place where they can get back to quote unquote being husband and wife. And I think that's what he's doing. He's trying. He, later brings her a martini, asks her if she wants anything to eat. I think he's trying to apologize in the best way that he knows how. And it seems as if also that they've done this dance before where he cheats, he does something nice, and then they're back to normal, and then it goes all over again.
And I was literally ready to recant my statement and say, okay, I'm convinced you guys make a good point, until you said, Sophia, that that it was recently revealed that he just cheated, and so he's trying to make up. Hello, ding, 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 ding. Chick, you cheating on your husband too.
She was in.
I agree, but this is, I think, why these shows, but I think this is why this show is so great and the writing is so great, is that it shows the hypocrisy of life. Because I think there's a difference between intellectually knowing something and emotionally how you feel. I think that you feel violated regardless of whatever you're doing. If you're in a marriage and you think, okay, this person needs to be 100% loyal to me, and he's not, I don't think your brain is going through, oh, but I'm cheating on him and blah, 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 and so forth and so on. In that raw, guttural instance, you still feel like it's bad. And I definitely think that someone like Annalise, even though, we keep seeing this juxtaposition of her being hurt and broken versus her being this powerful, accomplished, successful lawyer, I still think that she's kind of a little bit narcissistic. So I think all she's thinking about is what's been done to me. I don't think she's kind of thinking about her actions, because as we can see, she's willing to do anything. She's willing to throw her boyfriend Nate underneath the bus. She's willing to arguably be unethical in terms of how she practices law. But in her mind, the ends justifies the means, from her state of logic. And so I think she's a bit narcissistic. So I think she wouldn't even think, oh, well, I'm doing bad, or I have dirt. All she's thinking about is the wrong that's being done to her, which I think is arguably a character flaw, but then also possibly why she's been so successful.
Yeah.
And also, she probably low-key still thinks he killed that girl. So not only is she doing this and like, don't touch me because he cheated, she's in the back of her mind thinking, you probably killed this little girl, and you are touching me. Get your murderous hands off of me. That could have something to do with it too.
And Cornelia also, and not only do Annalise probably thinks that her husband did it, but she's defending him anyway. Nate also thinks that Annalise knows she killed her, that her husband killed, which is why. And you could tell that Nate touched a very sensitive nerve, because she told him to get out the car.
Exactly.
She told him to get out. I don't need you anymore. So, but.
And do you think it's sloppy? Because we talked about this last episode. Do you think that the fact that she planted the phone in Griffin's car is sloppy, especially given the fact that the quarterback brought it up when they were leaving court for the gag order and the exhumation of the body? The quarterback was like, "Yo, you planted the phone in my car. Like, what do you think I wouldn't know?" Like, do you think that that specific point is going to come back and bite Annalisa figuratively and literally in the ass?
I do think it was sloppy, but I don't know if it'll come back and bite her, because so many other things can come back and bite her. You know what I mean? Like the whole wallpaper thing. Yeah, you changed the wallpaper, but girl, everybody has been in that house, and everybody knows that you had that old wallpaper. Like stuff like that. So I think it could, but I would just add that to the list of everything else that could happen.
Well, technically speaking, the bathroom is upstairs, not downstairs. And being that the house is used for personal and for business, I would assume that there has to be a bathroom downstairs, and that only family, guests, I don't know.
And Bam, the funny thing is, I thought the same thing, and this is going to sound There isn't, and for multiple reasons. That's why Wes told her the bathroom is upstairs, because obviously that's the bathroom that they use, number one. Number two, you know when they show an outside shot of the house, it's like an old school Victorian, right? Yeah. In a weird way, a lot of those old school Victorians literally only have one bathroom, and it's always upstairs.
Oh, okay.
And I know what you're thinking too, because you're like, oh, it's a home office, blah blah. How do they not have a bathroom downstairs? There's something to be said about the old school nature of the house, and those houses literally only had one bathroom. So I strongly think it's going to bite her in the ass, and I completely agree with you, Bam, because the way that Nate said it, like, so what, you don't think anyone else knows your tricks? She literally didn't know what to do, and exactly, she told him to get out of the car, because I think she didn't think that anyone was onto her, because again, I think she's very self-absorbed and narcissistic. How do we feel, and I think this kind of leads me to back to the case or the legal issues here. You know, we learned that that initially it was Griffin's attorney and then the prosecutor both wanted the body to be exhumed. And we found out, and I'm gonna just like mention this and then we'll move on and we'll talk about it more offline. But how did you guys feel about an introduction of an expert witness? I feel like that was the legal nugget that we had to learn today, was what an expert witness is, number one. Number two, the fact that an expert witness could be paid. And then three, how we discredit an expert witness is one, well, or how you defend against an expert witness. So one, you discredit the expert witness, and then two, you bring in your own expert witness. How did you feel about that, I guess, as a legal nugget of kind of finding out as lay people, you know, how expert witnesses are used, and then how do you think that played out in things that we learned about Lila's murder?
I have a question. I've been waiting to do this show because I needed to ask you, Sophia. I was confused with the fact that you had 3 different legal lawyers all for the gag. I didn't understand that.
Okay.
Please explain it to me, and I don't mean to infringe, because I know people, you know, lawyers normally charge to give this kind of advice. So if you don't want to understand, but just
don't make me laugh, Bam. I'll do it really quick. So the reason being is because you have the prosecution, right, who basically represents the state. So they're basically in essence representing the victim, Lila, right? So and you're used to that. That's the lady from Orange Is the New Black.
Yeah.
Then you have 2 co-defendants, right? So because you have 2 co-defendants whose interests are adverse to one another, you have 2 separate attorneys. So you have Griffin's attorney and you have Rebecca's attorney. So because they all have interests, every time that there's anything to do with a court, you're going to have all 3 people. So the prosecution and then the 2 defense attorneys. So I'm going to change the scenario. Let's say that we were a husband and wife and we were both charged with the murder, and we both are going to band together. We potentially then could have 1 lawyer, right? But because Rebecca's going to point the finger at Griffin and Griffin's going to point the finger at Rebecca, because they have different interests, they need to both have their own attorneys if they do. And that's why you're seeing 3 attorneys in the courtroom for the gag order, for the exhumation of the body, so forth and so on. And that's also why they can play off of each other. So that's why the prosecution comes to Annalise and says, you know, here's a binder of, the Holden case, so that she could discredit the expert witness. That's also why the prosecution was able to make a plea with Griffin to turn Griffin against Rebecca, and so forth and so on. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about the revelation that we had that from the final exhumation of the body that Lila was pregnant, 6 weeks pregnant?
Did you see when she told Annalise that the girl was pregnant, how she turned around and looked at her husband with that, this MFer here? Like, you could tell she wanted to walk back into that room and slap the mess out of him. Not only did he cheat, not only was his picture in her phone, not only was he just being all around shady, lying about where he was, yada, yada, yada. Now this girl is pregnant and it's probably his. Like, come on. Come on, dude. Like, I think at some point he needs to just say everything that has happened. Of course, he probably won't say if he really murdered her, but he needs to say everything up until that point. Like, listen, we were kicking it. This happened. I'm sorry, she got pregnant. Yeah, I got her pregnant. Like, he needs to say something, because this whole wounded puppy, please don't leave me, I'm sorry thing. At this point, he's running out of that. He needs to say something because that pregnancy pretty much put the nail in the coffin. Unless it's not his. Then that'll be something different. Because you never know with a show like this. It could be some other guy's baby. So who knows?
And then, so what's going to happen now, in my opinion, Cornelia and Sophia, is that O'Reilly the quarterback? Is he really a virgin?
Ooh.
That's gonna be the big thing, and I think that's what Annalise. Well, okay, let me just say this really quick. Although information keeps coming out about Sam and his relationship with Lila, you have to give Annalise credit. Every time there's more things that fall on her back, she's able to get back, rise, and continue to walk up the steps and go forth with trying to defend and keep her husband out of the loop. So in that essence, she's pretty damn good. So I don't think the fact that Lila's pregnant is going to affect Annalise. She's going to get right back on top, and she's going to figure out a way to keep her husband out of it being revealed that he's involved, and they're going to go after now O'Reilly and question, is he really a virgin?
I think that is an excellent, stellar point. So I'm going to have to remember that because I think that's an excellent point. However, I actually read this scene a little bit different. The way that she turns and looks at him, it literally looked like she was about to cry. So I felt like she was kind of so hurt, right? And not only was she so hurt, the writers, there would have been no legitimate reason to mention the miscarriages if there wasn't then a murder. I mean, not a murder, a pregnancy. So to me, again, I cannot fathom that Annalise is so cold that the miscarriages didn't affect her. I think that they did. I think the fact that they don't have children is a hole in their relationship. And then to juxtapose this with the fact that now you got your pregnant student, you got your random student that you're treating with pregnant, I feel that the way that she turned and she looked at him, she was extremely hurt. Like, she was like, I can't believe you were going to have a child with someone else. And then I think it also goes, does that mean he killed her? She's an attorney, and I'm going to run statistics. Oftentimes, the most logical person is, in fact, the one who killed someone. So, for instance, in most situations, it's always the husband, the wife, or the girlfriend, right? Because it's a crime of passion. The fact that not only were Sam and Lila having an affair, but the fact that it was an affair that then resulted in a potential child, that right there is a clear motive for murder, number one. Number two, and it kind of, I think, is what you're mentioning, Cornelia, and this is, grown folk, hopefully little kids aren't watching this, and if they are, there's a lesson to be learned. It also means that you were cheating unprotected. Because to me, like you said, if Sam plausibly could not be the baby's father, the first thing out of his mouth was, no, Annalise, we use protection. Like, you're going to defend yourself. The fact that he didn't defend himself and looked like, oh my God, I just got caught, means that it's possible. And simply because you're having sex with someone, it's possible, but it's more possible if you're having unprotected sex. And to me, that's also another violation of the sanctity of our marriage, that he's not disclosing this type of information. And just like you said, Cornelia, they need to now have a conversation. If she's going to try to protect him, she now needs to know everything. And the fact that she's not is a little bit problematic, but to me shows that she really is an emotional person.
Well, you remember, because this is an ongoing pattern, they love to leave you with the cliffhanger of certain words. She's pregnant. Boom, the end. The chalkboard, how to get away with murder. So we don't know if he hasn't defended himself, because they're probably going to now go into next week, leaving us on the cliffhanger for 6 days to figure out, okay, what's he going to say? Is he going to respond? So he's probably going to respond, but they ended it in such a way where he didn't have a chance to even show any reaction on his face. So I think it possibly will go down. We can't say for sure yet.
That's an excellent point, Ben. That's an excellent point. Well, let's quickly go through some of the other relationships in the show that we kind of discovered. How do you feel about Frank and Laurel? Do you think that that's just kind of a salacious storyline, or do we think that it's leading us somewhere that is going to be relevant either to Lila's case and or to Sam's murder?
I'm personally uninterested in their relationship, and it shows the difference between young and older. You know, he said to her, "This is not high school. If you don't like me, I'm not gonna like you." That is what grown-ups. That's what adults do. If Cornelia or if I'm seeing either one of you, and you tell me it's off, I'm not messing with you. I don't like you like that. Why would I then chase you or like you when you've made it clear? Stay your ass away from me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree, but it has that young element in it. Just to piggyback off what you said, grown folks will do one thing, but when you're younger and you're unsure and you're still trying to find your way, and relationships are not necessarily new to you, but you're not as seasoned in that type of situation, you'll still the chase is still a part of who you are, or it's still something that you want to pursue. In regards to their relationship, I mean, it's okay. Like, I feel bad for her boyfriend or whoever, her little boy toy or whatever the other guy is, but you
I
know,
don't. I don't feel bad for him because he's playing her. Um, did you notice the way that he threw in the comments when he says, "Hold on, where's my notes?" He said specifically, he says, um, "You wouldn't be leaving Keaton to work for me." He said it in a very. It's one of those things where it's like, "Hey, what you eating, Cornelia? Oh, that looks really good." So I'm saying that because
First psychology on her.
I want you to offer me what you're eating. And so he did it in a way where he put it into her mind because I don't think she was thinking about it. But she's willing now to leave potentially Annalise Keating and the Fab Five to go help with some boy that you just met. I mean, well, I was gonna go there, but I'm not. But the power of would
Oh
make.
my goodness. All right. Well, speaking of, I can't. Speaking of the power of that, what do we think about Connor and his interaction with Julian, and also too his attempting to make up with Oliver? Or do you think that they're doing that to kind of show us that he actually has a heart and he has a soul, or do you think it's kind of just again salacious eye candy, and that's kind of why they keep bringing Connor and Connor's escapades into the storyline somehow?
I think he has a heart and a soul. Like, even throughout, when he's doing when he's doing whatever he's doing, like a couple episodes ago, remember when he slept with the guy that worked at the investment firm, and then when he jumped out of the window, he felt a certain way about it. You can tell it wasn't like, oh well, doing my job. He was like, dang. Like, you can tell he was like, dang. Like, I didn't mean for this to happen. So I think when in regards to Oliver, I think in his own way, he really cares for him. But some people just don't know how to show it, or they're too douchey, or they're just too caught up in that whole game aspect to know how to show somebody else. But I think he took the initiative because he came over there with the flowers, but his new boo came to the door. So we don't know what happened with this, but I think he means well.
Well, I think that Oliver knew that um, the Frank, no, Connor. What's
Connor.
Connor? Oliver knew that he was being played, and that he knew from the jump what was going on, and so you can't now go into a situation after the fact when you knew that he was coming at you for information and that he was giving a guy like you, he played you. You wanted the good sex from a good hot boy. You took it, and relationship and feelings grew between the two, and you then got fed up and you got confidence, and now you got a better looking guy. But you need to recognize game, Oliver. So for me, it's like whatever.
Oh my God, man, that's so cold. Okay, I have a slightly different take on it, and the only reason being is because I feel that when Oliver basically, said like, oh, well, why don't we go have breakfast or whatever, like what real couples do, and then the fact that Connor stayed, that was kind of solidifying that we're in a relationship and it's not simply sex. So the fact that then he, after that, did sleep with the guy at the investment firm, that I think was the violation. So yes, up until that point, I think it's plausible that he, knew that they were just having sex. But at that moment that where he was intimate with him and basically was saying like, I want to be in a relationship with you, I think that kind of solidified it, as well as the fact that if I remember that episode, he also, when he was, on the computer hacking, he turns to him and says, yes, I know you love me and want to have my babies. So I think that they were kind of building more of an intimate relationship. And I also think that we're going to eventually find out a lot more about Connor's backstory. Because to me, when he was in the bathroom with Julian and he turned him around, the look on his face, it's almost like he was disgusted at himself. Like he's created this identity where he is, arguably or a does whatever he wants. And that's not necessarily my opinion. I think that's kind of how they're trying to paint his character. But I think he wants more than that, and he knows he's more than that, and that's why when Julian said like, "Don't worry, we met on Humper. I don't remember you either." He show his identity to be the powerful player that he is, and that's why he's like, "Well, let me make you remember."
Mhm.
And I think even he was disgusted at himself. And that's why he still cares about Oliver and went to, his apartment with the flowers and actually affected when there was someone else at Oliver's apartment who seemed to care about him, number one, and I totally agree with them. They made the guy extremely hot for a reason to show that you're not the only person who thinks that Oliver is attractive and a viable partner. Other people do, and not only other people, but other people who are really, really, really hot.
And going back to just really quick when I say game recognized game, Oliver recognized the game, and I think that could have been a plot because he knew at some point that Connor would come back, so he could be using this guy to get back at what's his name just to show him that like, look, don't think that I'm some little guy who just can't get anybody. Like, I could get somebody as well. So it could be just be it could be a payback or something. I don't know. I'm sure we'll see more of it.
Okay. All right. Well, on game recognizing game, how do you think about the fact that um uh, uh
Michaela,
yes, thank you. Her future parents-in-law basically presented her with a prenup.
applause.
Well, speak on it. Make your case, Bam. Make your case.
All right, give me just a couple seconds. Well, as I've said before, you have the nerve to tell him, if you ever lie to me again, I will take you for all your money. I will publicly humiliate you so that you can never run again. The first thing that came out of her mouth was, I'm going to take you for all of your money. You're a lawyer, or you're on the road to being a successful lawyer. You have the Vera Wang dress all out, so you probably already have money yourself. But the first thing that you want to do when you're hurt is you allegedly hurt if something happens in your future with this guy. You want to take him for all your money. Why are you a lawyer, and why you want to be so successful if your only goal is to, when you hurt somebody, is to take them for all their money? So boom, you got what you deserved.
Do you think, though, that it is cold or out of line for the fact that he didn't alert her of this? That they haven't had a conversation, that the first time it's being presented is in the law office and she's unaware of the fact that it's coming. Do you think he should have had a conversation with her first?
I don't
Or
think
do you
that.
think he even is aware of it?
I don't think Aiden's aware. I don't think he knows. I think his parents, just being protective and knowing that this relationship is going further, rich parents tend to protect their rich estate. So I think they totally did it without Aiden even knowing.
I don't know if he knew or not, but as a woman now in like 2014, and you start dating and you start getting with someone who's successful or on the path to be successful, in the back of your mind, you have to kind of know that a prenup discussion or an actual prenup is coming. Before, back in the day, when our parents were getting married, no. You know, you get married, what's mine is yours, split it down 50-50, alimony, child support, we divorce, you know, it was just like that. But now, I was shocked how surprised she was, but it could be, like you said, Bam, or Sophia, I'm not sure which one of you guys said it. It's the fact that they didn't even talk about it. It was just like, hey, you're here. She thought she was there for an interview. No, girl, you're signing this prenup. Sorry, you know. So maybe that's why she was a little, you know, upset. Well, I hope it wasn't because of the prenup in general, because she should sign one for her own protection. If she's on track to be the lawyer that she wants to be, I was watching something earlier this week, I think a clip of the talk or the reel or something, and they were saying people get ugly and become unrecognizable when you get divorced or when people's feelings are hurt. So
Do you think
I think she should just look over the prenup, make adjustments if what she likes, and just sign it.
Do you think? Well, we don't know if she signed it or not.
True.
To me, there's no way she signed it, and the reason being is twofold. A, she obviously is in law school, so no one's going to just sign something. There's no way that you could have read and ingested and understood everything in there and then just signed it on the spot. That's just not plausible, number one. Number two, I think that she still needs time because, of course, she's now going to have to call her boyfriend because they're going to have some kind of conversation because given the fact that he disclosed that he had previously not only slept with Connor, but the fact that Connor is a guy, that, like you said, Bam, the fact that she was going to take him for all of his money, now that power play no longer exists. So basically, in essence, what she was saying is, you can't embarrass me or cheat on me, number one, but number two, cheat on me with a guy because I have this leverage over you of potentially taking all of your money and discrediting you. The fact that you take money off the table, now it's like, oh, wait, you no longer have a threat of something that means something to you, so you possibly could cheat. I think that's part of it. Number two, I don't know. I just think that she still, on some levels, I'm talking out of the other side of my mouth, is a little bit naive. So again, I think she was totally sideswiped. I don't think she saw it coming, and so I think she needs time to digest. But what I think is still alarming to me, and this is going to sound silly, I don't know how I feel either way. So, for instance, the intellectual me, like you said, Camelia, completely agrees. I feel like in this day and age, with certain types of individuals, or maybe all individuals, the conversation needs to be had about what's going to happen if and when we get divorced, even if it's not memorialized in a prenup. So there's the intellectual part of me that thinks, of course it has to happen, let alone the fact that both of these individuals come from a certain pedigree where there definitely is stuff to be protected, and therefore a prenup is more of a normal conversation in a marital situation. But then there's still this weird part of me, this emotional part of me that says, should we be planning for divorce? So I think that I'm personally and intellectually conflicted, and I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to play out, number one. Number two, I'm curious to see whether or not Michaela is going to redline this, i.e. change the agreement or propose something wherein if he cheats, there's a penalty, i.e. money, and number two, if he cheats with a guy, there's a different type of a penalty. Because arguably, that's what a prenup is. A prenup is whatever we decide either one of us is entitled to if and when we get a divorce, and arguably there's different parameters for the egregious nature of a divorce where therefore I should potentially get paid because there was excessive harm done to me. And the fact that they've obviously brought up the fact that he slept with Connor, I think that that's going to somehow come back again. And so the intellectual part of me feels like if she wants to move forward with this marriage, she better put in a provision that if he cheats, there's a penalty clause. If he cheats with a guy, there's another penalty clause, as well as the fact that if there's any type of scandal associated with sex, there is a third penalty clause. And that has nothing to do with my viewpoints on him sleeping with a guy. It just has to do with the fact that they obviously have brought this up in the storyline. So I think that she needs to bring that up to her fiance as well as in the agreement if she intends to sign it.
Well, Sophia, a couple of things, because you said this twice, so it made me think. Well, you have to go back. I don't believe that Aiden slept with Connor in the sense of having, like, you know, the kind of the sex that you see Connor in. It didn't seem like that is what happened. It seemed like it was you know, they were both what, 12 or 16 years old,
16.
16 years old, and they had what I guess what you call a little tete-a-tete. Was it really sex? What really happened? But I do think the fact
So,
that
do you mean that they weren't in a relationship or they didn't have sex?
they didn't have sex, like they didn't sleep together, like had sex, you know, sex like man sex. I
Okay,
don't.
I think they totally had sex.
So so that's one thing. But
Okay.
then, can she really change the terms and agreement of the prenup? Because you now have the parents that are involved. Who are these parents? Will we see them later on? How much power do they have? Are they, like, you know, the big lawyers of New York? Or, like, it all depends. Like, I don't know if Michaela really has the ability to try and throw her weight around when she's dealing with two very rich and potentially powerful lawyers or people with money that we're going to eventually see later on in episodes.
Well, she better try. Because a prenup is, like Sophia said, it's pretty much a contract negotiation. So if you get the contract and you take it as is, that's on you without making any effort. She better come out. She better get her own legal team. She needs to pull Annalise to the side, and say, "You told me to be careful about who I'm marrying. Can you help me with this prenup?" Or somebody, like, she needs to get somebody to help her out, because if you sign a prenup and the terms aren't terms that you agree with, that's on you. Nobody else.
No, I totally agree. And it's funny though, and I would love to hear you guys out there in the world on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Google Plus. Let us know how you feel about the prenup storyline on this show and how you feel about prenups in general. Because arguably prenups can prevent people from getting married. And I can't remember the particulars, but I think it was Eddie Murphy. And who was Eddie Murphy in a relationship? Was it Edwards? What's her name?
Mel B.
Or Edmonds? No.
Tracy Edmonds. Yeah.
Were they in a relationship? I heard that the reason that broke down was because of the prenup. And then number two, I've heard gossip that the same thing with Strahan and Eddie Murphy's ex-wife.
Yeah.
And it's twofold. I heard that because the prenup she had with Eddie was so good that basically the money that she makes from the prenup, she basically isn't gonna she then forfeits that money when she gets remarried. So in her mind, with Michael Strahan, whatever is delineated in the prenup, if they divorce, in her mind, she's comparing it with her current alimony, right? So let's just arguably say she gets $20,000 a month, and in the prenup with Strahan, she only gets $5,000. She's like, why am I then going to get married and potentially only if we get divorced make $5,000 when I make $20,000 over here? So I think to say that oftentimes prenups go on for the negotiations for prenups. They go on for a long time, even arguably. And again, I kind of know the TV world. Nene Leakes and Greg Leakes with their second marriage and the prenup being at issue. Again, with Candy Burris and Todd, I can't remember his last name.
Tucker.
Can literally potentially destroy a relationship, but they definitely take a long time in terms of negotiations. But arguably, I feel that from an intellectual perspective, the actual conversation needs to be had, even if it's not memorialized on paper. Because we need to know, I need to know, where do you stand? Like, how do you view me if and when this falls apart, given the fact that today you love me enough before God and your family to pledge your life to me? What does that mean if, in fact, it doesn't work out for whatever reason? So, again, let us know online how you guys feel about the prenup regarding this specific storyline and how you guys feel about prenups in general. We would love to know how you guys feel. Go ahead, Bam.
Speaking of another relationship, Bonnie and Asher. We brushed on this last week, but it's revealed now that those two are knocking boots, and not only were they having sex or having a tit-a-tat, whatever you want to call it, they were having a sexual relationship while the other four were in the mix of fixing the murder of Sam. Whoa. So there's a lot of questions. why wasn't Asher involved? Was Asher sleeping with Bonnie to have an to was
Have an
he
alibi.
yes to have an alibi, or was he doing something like? There's so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. I'm stuttering, but that opens up a whole new can of worms, and I just wanted to just bring that to your attention and see what you guys think about that.
Well, remember that we saw him knocking on the door and the window when they were in the house trying to figure out what they were going to do with the body. So we have that. Then when they put the body in the car and they show him standing in front of the car that they were in the street, one of them called and said something like, "Hey, come here. I'm somewhere else." So, you know, something happened where he was diverted again. So I don't think he's involved, or I think he's just an outside piece. But the fact that they keep showing, they showed us that. I feel like they showed us for a reason.
I agree,
So,
and I think the reason is for the reverse. I don't think it's for him to have an alibi. I think it's for Bonnie to have an alibi. We've talked about this, and again, I've been reading a lot of the comments on YouTube, on Twitter that you guys are leaving, and I think that everyone agrees Bonnie is creepy. There's something weird about her, number one. Number two, she really literally is the gatekeeper and or the pit bull for Annalise, right? So there's something there. She's too connected to not know what's going on, and the fact that she slept with him, it doesn't resonate with me. Like, I can't even imagine someone kind of as she seems such like an ice princess sleeping with him. There must have been a motive for her to do so, and as well as a motive for her to do so, if that makes sense. Like a layperson's motive as well as a real motive. So I think that, if anything, she slept with him so that she would have an alibi for something. I just can't figure out what that is, given the fact that Rebecca has, quote-unquote, confessed to killing Sam. But I definitely think that is going to come back into play, you know, Bonnie sleeping with Asher for some reason. It wasn't just a throwaway scene. It wasn't just to be salacious.
And she's definitely Annalise's ace boon coon, because Frank doesn't knock at Annalise's door at night when she don't have a wig on her head.
No, I completely
I'm
agree.
just saying. Which
I completely agree. I think that Bonnie, we're going to find out and learn a lot more about her, and I definitely feel like she is part of the intimate inner circle, just like Bam said, the fact that she can actually knock on her bedroom door. I think it's definitely going to come into play, and I'm extremely excited to see next episode and see how this storyline with Bonnie, with Sam, and Lila's murder, you know, kind of to see if we're going to have any more resolution to anything before the potential winter finale in 2 episodes, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, this is actually a perfect place for us to end. So again, let us know online what you think about everything that we've talked about. Definitely make your case online, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Google+, on everything How to Get Away with Murder. So again, thank you so much for watching. Where can they find you, Cornelia?
You can find me at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cornelia.
How about you, Bam?
And you can find me on all social media at Bam Erickson.
And you can also find me on all social media at Sophia Stanley. And again, share your thoughts, make your case. This has been The Wrap Report, How to Get Away with Murder.